Hey everyone, I just wanted to come on quick to encourage you guys to stay till the end of the video, because at the end of every video I come on with the finished project and I give everybody tips, tricks, and mistakes that I may have made during the video. And I find that people are asking questions, and it's all the stuff that I tell you at the end of the video when I come on in person showing you the project. Anyway, enjoy the video. I start with the 14 by 14 inch picture frame. I remove the backing, I remove the glass, I clean it up, and this time I replace the glass, and instead of using glue, I am only using painter's tape, paying special attention into sealing it from the frame to the glass, especially paying attention to how well it is sealed in the corner. And I did this with my last one, and I'm doing it with this, and I will let you know if I feel like this is going to do the trick without using the glue. The purpose of the tape is to hold the glass in place and to help prevent resin leaks. When you do pour resin on the other side, the resin, once cured, will permanently adhere the glass to the frame. Then I printed up some clip art off of my Cricut program and I taped it to the back of the glass. Then I took Clear Elmer's glue and I outlined the entire check, and then I took 4mm iridescent rhinestone chain that I had picked up on Amazon, and I followed right along the Clear Elmer's glue line with the rhinestone chain, putting it right on top of it. And you don't have to be extra careful with the Elmer's glue, because when you do put the resin on top of it, it will completely cover it, even if it is to go in other areas. And this is the Clear Elmer's glue, not the regular Elmer's glue. Glue must be completely dry before you can pour resin over it. I also took a 2mm orange rhinestone chain and totally covered the feet with it, and a 4mm rhinestone chain, even though I don't show it, black, and did the eyes, and a 2mm orange rhinestone chain and outlined the little chick's nose. Next, I took Ashland decorative filler that I had picked up at Michael's and spread it out on a piece of paper, and took Tamiya translucent yellow spray paint and sprayed the glass. I did give this a couple of coats and kind of let it dry, and then moved it around and then gave it another coat. And it comes out to be a beautiful yellow. Tamiya spray paints do not fade, they do not run, and they take a very short time to dry. Next day, after the rhinestone chains had completely dried, I took Clear Elmer's glue and went over the chickie with it, and then I took my Ashland decorative filler that I had sprayed with the yellow translucent Tamiya spray paint and filled it all in. I did remove the paper from the back because you can more easily see if all areas are covered. You need to, after you remove the backing, pick it up and look at it. Next, I'm going to make some flower petals, and I had picked up this bowl at a Goodwill thrift store. I think I had used it for something else, but this is actually clear glass that has some kind of painting on the back of it. It's just painted on the back. So you cannot put this in the tumbler at all. So here I am with my nipper tool, just squeezing, and these are flower petals that I'm making. And if you were to put this in the tumbler, that backing would come off totally, and I'll show it to you closer later on in the video at the very end. But you see these kind of bowls a lot, like at thrift stores and that. So if you're wondering if it's painted or if that's the color of the glass, no, it has some kind of a paper on the back or painting, and then it's again covered with that metallic silver spray, and it actually has a texture. You can actually feel the paint on the back. So for this, I just go all the way around the perimeter, nipping using these C-bell nippers, and you can see that the glass doesn't fly, but that I can actually pick it up because of the rubber on there. And I will let you know when I find somewhere that has those C-bell nippers in again. So because those edges are so sharp, you do have to sand them. And after I got all of my petals that I thought I wanted, I did end up taking them out to the garage to the sander and just sanding off the edges because they were razor sharp. And then I did end up removing the rhinestone chain at the very top of the chickie's head and putting the bow on top. I was planning on trying to make a bow in a different way and it just didn't work out, so I had to remove some of the glass and the rhinestone chain, put the paper back on the back, and outline the bow with the clear Elmer's glue, and then again with the 2mm rhinestone chain. Next, I took Ashland decorative filler that I had spray painted with the Tamaya purple translucent spray paint, and I just filled in inside the rhinestone chain for the bow on the top of the chickie's head. Next, I started forming the flowers with the flower petals, and I think I ended up with maybe a dozen flowers. And then you can see the VITRIGRAPH glass at the top of the frame. Then I got out this VITRIGRAPH glass to use for the stems. Now the VITRIGRAPH glass, where it's real thin, you can actually snap it with your fingers. And the thicker areas, you can use your nipper and cut it where you need to cut it. And this was kind of like fitting a puzzle together because I wanted them to go around the flowers, and the longer ones were a little bit more difficult to figure out exactly how I could place them without going on top of the other flowers. Then after I got all the stems in place, I needed some leaves, and I did have some green glass that I had used for leaves on my last project, and then I also used the nipper tool to cut up some small leaves to place on top of the project. Next, it was ready for the resin. The resin I'm using for this project is Let's Resin Resin. It's a 1-to-1 ratio resin that you mix slowly in a cup for 3 minutes, scraping the sides, scraping the bottom to ensure thorough mixing. The slower you mix it, the less bubbles you'll get. One of the biggest things is temperature. You need to make sure that the temperature is warm enough or you will create more bubbles. You could end up with cloudy resin, and the resin is usually thicker. It will thin out if it's warmer. So I sprinkle it or drizzle it over the crushed glass and then over all the flower petals and VITRIGRAPH glass first to ensure that that's thoroughly covered, and then I take the resin and I put it along the edges and up into the corners because this resin, you really kind of have to move it around yourself. It is self-leveling to some degree, but not totally, and you do have to look to make sure you've gotten everything covered. Next, I take some glass that I picked up at Hobby Lobby. It's green glass that can be found back in the stained glass section. It's a real pretty green glass. It actually comes in 5 different colors, and it hangs in bags on that aisle. And the other thing that I put down at the bottom was some purple pieces from a necklace, beads, and some different stones. One of the things that I do look for at garage sales and thrift stores is old jewelry, and I buy that. And the other thing that I put down at the bottom, I had some little white flowers that I had picked up from Temu. I had ordered on Temu, and I put some of those down at the bottom. And then I just went back over everything with the resin, trying to make sure that everything was covered. You do need to get down eye level and look at the project. Next, I get out the kitchen torch and go over it to get rid of some of the little bubbles. One of the things I do after I finish a project is I come back every 15 minutes to recheck for glass placement, for sediment, to retorch for bubbles if it needs it. It's really important that you have it on a flat level surface, and that way the glass will not move. I had some little silver beads that I also put in the center of each of the flowers, and I didn't want to do that till after I put the resin on it because I was afraid they were going to roll all over the place. And then last, I take a little toothpick and I kind of straighten all the little flowers out and make sure everything looks good. This resin, this particular resin needs to cure at temperatures between 75 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit. All resins are different. You need to read the directions for the resin that you are using.
Hey everyone. So this was another pretty easy project. The biggest thing was probably having to sand all the tips of that down. And you guys know that if you don't, not everybody has a stained glass sander in their garage. So you can just take a little piece of sandpaper or one of those little sanding blocks and knock the sharpness off the tips, because these, when I nipped them, they were razor sharp. They were so pointy, and if you were looking close enough, you could see that I had punctured my skin a couple of times with the tips of those. So they're really sharp. You would not want to leave that on there. And I don't know, this glass, I'm going to show it to you from the back for two reasons, because this is one of the ones that I just put the tape on the back. And you can see where the resin kind of seeped through in a couple little spots up there, especially in the corners. So I might try it a couple more times and just be real careful about, boy, this camera's way up, isn't it? I'm gonna put it down a little. Oh gosh, what was I saying? So I'm gonna try it a couple more times, and trying to be more careful around the corners and see if it works. Otherwise, I'm gonna go back to my Elmer's glue and tape, the double protection. But anyway, so the other thing I wanted to show you and talk about was, so this, the flower petals, I use this. And I don't know if you could notice, but at first I was having a little bit of a problem. I thought, oh, this glass is really tough. It's harder to work. Well, after a few minutes of doing it, I looked at my nippers, and you have to watch this before you do. This blade was just a tiny bit loose. It had a little wiggle to it. And if it has some wiggle to it, it's not going to cut properly and it will seem tough. So all you have to do is most of them are tightened with these Allen wrenches. They kind of look like this. They're, for those of you who don't know who they are, what they are, and the Allen wrenches usually come in, you get a little pack of like all different sizes when you buy it like this. But the other way you might have seen Allen wrenches before are usually in the furniture that you get that you have to put together yourself. Usually a little Allen wrench, a disposable one, comes in it. But anyway, so be sure before you use your nippers that these little blades are not loose at all, because it can cause problems. And these are the Seabell nippers, which I guess they're out of everywhere, or wherever they have them, they're price gouging. So, these are nice, but your other nippers will do just as well. I use a bunch of other different nippers, so you can get them online on Amazon, and I'll link them. And when these do come back in at a reasonable price, I will let you know. The big thing about the Seabell is it has that little blue ring around them, and it holds the glass so that the glass doesn't fly. I was trying to think, well, gosh, couldn't we just remove this on here and somehow put our own little rubber ring on a regular pair of nippers? I don't know. That's something to think about. I might go up to the store and see if they sell rubber rings and see if we can't do something with them, because that would be great. But anyway, so this is the glass I used, and it is clear glass, and you can actually feel the texture on it. So I think they just painted it with that design somehow, and it feels like paper, and then sprayed it with that. But look at, I can actually pull it up on the back. Look at it, just flaked off. Oh, here's a piece of it. Huh. Yeah, where are you? Right there. Yeah, it just flaked off. It almost feels like a piece of paper on the back. But, and then you can see how it's just clear glass through it. So this, I wouldn't risk tumbling it all. Just try to sand down the edges, the sharp edges, because it is very sharp. But anyway, so all in all, this was a fairly easy project. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And like I said, I'm going to experiment a little more with the tape, and then I'm probably going to have to go back to the Elmer's glue because, you know, I could see some leaking. And also, a little bit got on the back of the glass, and I just took a razor blade and it took it right off, what little bit got on there. So if that happens to you. And there are other ways to seal the glass. I have heard UV resin, which is pretty much an instant cure, but UV resin's expensive. Elmer's glue is probably the cheapest way to seal it. Elmer's glue and painter's tape. And I've heard all different ways people seal their projects up, you know, with silicone and that, but I would say that Elmer's glue and painter's tape is probably the easiest. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, I guess, Easter or spring project. And if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. That really helps the channel. If you enjoy the channel, go ahead and subscribe. We have the Facebook page going, a great group of encouraging people. Come join us there. Everybody's displaying their different artwork. Gives you ideas. It's great for newbies. It's great for me. I'm learning. And I hope you guys all have a great day. Thanks for watching.